This is the most unprecedented face-off between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Bharatiya Janata Party, and from Delhi to Gujarat, it is only escalating. Is this a fight against corruption or is this political vendetta? I'll be tracking all the latest on that. Hello and welcome. I'm Pooja Shali. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime. First, the headlines. Russia detains an ISI suicide bomber who was plotting a high-profile terror attack in India. Bomber makes a sensational admission, admits to wanting to avenge the insult to prophet. KCR's daughter hits back after the Bharatiya Janata Party claimed her role in Delhi's liquor scam. K. Kavita calls it a conspiracy to malign her family.
I have nothing to do with the Delhi liquor investigation that is going on. This is a baseless allegation made on me by Bharatiya Janata Party, just to make sure they malign the reputation of our family, and I'm so sorry to tell them it is not going.
The Bharatiya Janata Party Congress in a furious Tipu versus Savarkar controversy. Congress threatens to paste Tipu Sultan posters at the Bharatiya Janata Party office. This, they say, is a tit for tat after BJP workers put up Savarkar posters at the Congress office. Sri Ram Sene and pro-Hindu organization workers kickstart a mega signature campaign, launching signatures to celebrate the Ganesh Chaturthi at Hubballi's Eidgah ground. It's a flood fury in many parts of the country. Uttar Pradesh, Odisha and Himachal Pradesh are battling a deluge due to incessant rainfall. Roads are submerged, homes and vehicles are swept away. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan leaves his residence, applies for a pre-arrest bail after being booked for acts of terror. Supporters of the party hit the streets. It's non-stop bars between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP over the excise policy of liquor and alleging 144 crore rupees corruption. Now, I'm cutting across to Arvind Kejriwal, who's addressing a press briefing. Let's listen in to what the Delhi Chief Minister has to say.
महाभारत की आपने कहानी सुनी होगी। जब महाभारत युद्ध शुरू हो गया, तो श्री कृष्ण जी सोए हुए थे। उनसे मदद मांगने के लिए दुर्योधन और श्री कृष्ण दोनों पहुंचे। दुर्योधन उनके सिरहाने बैठ गए, श्री कृष्ण उनके पांव के, अर्जुन उनके पांव के पास बैठ गए श्री कृष्ण जी के। उनकी जब आंखें खुली तो उनको पहले अर्जुन दिखाई दिए। उन्होंने अर्जुन से पूछा क्या चाहिए, तो दुर्योधन ने कहा पहले मैं आया था, मैं मांगूंगा। तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं, पहले मैंने इनको देखा। तो अर्जुन ने कहा कि भगवान, इस युद्ध के अंदर मुझे आप चाहिए, मुझे श्री कृष्ण चाहिए, भगवान चाहिए। दुर्योधन मन मन में बड़ा खुश हुआ। उसने कहा मेरे को तो सेना चाहिए थी। तो उसने कहा भगवान अगर ये ऐसे कह रहे हैं तो आप इनके साथ चले जाइए, मुझे अपनी सेना दे दीजिए। आज इन लोगों के पास पूरी सेना है, इन लोगों के पास पूरी ताकत है। इनके पास सीबीआई है, इनके पास ईडी है, इनके पास इनकम टैक्स है, इनके पास पुलिस है, इनके पास सारी, इतना पैसा है इन लोगों के पास। हमारे साथ श्री कृष्ण है, हमारे साथ भगवान है, और अंत में जीत सच्चाई की होगी, भगवान की होगी। और जनता के, भगवान जनता के दिल में बसते हैं। जनता भगवान होती है, जनता जनार्दन होती है। आज जनता हमारे साथ है, ये जितना मर्जी हमें परेशान कर लें। आज दिल्ली में हमने शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य में शानदार काम किया है। ऐसा काम किया है कि 75 साल, आजादी के 75 साल में इतना अच्छा काम कभी नहीं हुआ। जैसा भी मैं आपसे पूछ रहा था, मैंने आप लोगों से पूछा भाई सरकारी अस्पताल में कौन कौन लेके जाता? कोई नहीं लेके जाता। दिल्ली में आजकल अमीर लोग भी सरकारी अस्पताल में अपना इलाज कराते हैं। यकीन नहीं होगा आपको, आपको लगेगा केजरीवाल झूठ बोल रहा है। मैं आपसे निवेदन करूंगा, जो जो आ सकते हैं एक बार दिल्ली का चक्कर काट के आओ, दिल्ली होके आओ। दिल्ली के लोगों से फोन करके दिल्ली के लोगों से पूछ लो। अगर दिल्ली में फोन करके पूछना, अगर कोई आदमी अगर आपको यह कह दे कि केजरीवाल अच्छा काम नहीं कर रहा, मुझे गुजरात में वोट मत देना। दिल्ली होके आओ, सरकारी अस्पतालों में घूम के आओ, सरकारी मोहल्ला क्लिनिक में घूम के आओ। दिल्ली के अंदर ग्रेटर कैलाश एक कॉलोनी है, सबसे अमीर लोग दिल्ली के वहां रहते हैं। वहां पे हम लोगों ने सरकारी डिस्पेंसरी बनाई है उन लोगों की मांग पे। वहां पे इतने अमीर अमीर लोग सरकारी डिस्पेंसरी में जाते हैं, मैं आपको बता नहीं सकता, इतने अमीर लोग। आज इतना शानदार स्वास्थ्य का सिस्टम कर दिया। अब दिल्ली में अमीर लोग अपने बच्चों को प्राइवेट, बड़े बड़े प्राइवेट स्कूलों से निकाल के सरकारी स्कूल में भर्ती करा रहे हैं। जैसे मैं एक स्कूल में गया था अभी थोड़े दिन पहले, एक क्लास में गया, मैंने वहां बच्चों से पूछा सरकारी स्कूल में, मैंने कहा आप में से प्राइवेट स्कूल छोड़ के कौन आए हैं, हाथ खड़े करो। तो कई बच्चों ने हाथ खड़े किए कि हम प्राइवेट स्कूल से नाम कटवा के सरकारी स्कूल में आए हैं। मैंने एक बच्चे से पूछा कौन से स्कूल में पढ़ते थे, कौन से स्कूल से नाम कटवा के आए हो? बोला सेंट कोलंबस, दिल्ली का सबसे शानदार प्राइवेट स्कूल माना जाता है। प्राइवेट स्कूल में सेंट कोलंबस से नाम कटवा के दिल्ली के सरकारी स्कूल में आए हैं। गुजरात में भी ऐसे सरकारी अस्पताल और स्कूल चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए? इसीलिए इन लोगों ने 2 महीने पहले झूठा केस बना के मेरे स्वास्थ्य मंत्री को अंदर कर दिया। 2 महीने से वो अंदर है, झूठा केस है बिल्कुल। अगर उसमें जरा सी भी सच्चाई होती, अगर सतिंदर जैन हमारा स्वास्थ्य मंत्री जरा सा भी बेईमान होता, मैं उसको निकाल के बाहर कर देता। मैंने पहले एक मंत्री को किया था, मेरा एक मंत्री गड़बड़ कर रहा था, मैंने उसको निकाल के बाहर कर दिया। पंजाब में अभी हमारा एक मंत्री गड़बड़ कर रहा था, हमने खुद उसको निकाल के जेल भेज दिया, खुद हमने उसको भगवंत मान ने उसको निकाल के जेल भेज दिया। हम जरा सा भी, इतना सा भी भ्रष्टाचार बर्दाश्त नहीं करते। लेकिन वो भ्रष्टाचार नहीं देख रहे। उन्होंने 2 महीने पहले मेरे स्वास्थ्य मंत्री को अंदर कर दिया और अब ये मनीष सिसोदिया को अगले 3-4 दिन में जेल भेजना चाहते हैं। क्यों? ये चाहते हैं कि दिल्ली में जो शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य का अच्छा काम चल रहा है वो बंद हो जाए। उनका ये मकसद है। ये तो गलत बात है। ऐसे देश कैसे तरक्की करेगा? अगर हम सारे आपस में लड़ेंगे तो देश कैसे तरक्की करेगा? हमें तो यह सोचना चाहिए कि अगर दिल्ली के अंदर शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य का इतना अच्छा काम हो गया तो केंद्र सरकार को हमें बुलाना चाहिए था, हमें कहना चाहिए था सिखाओ, हम पूरे देश में करेंगे। ये अच्छी बात होती कि नहीं होती? कि केंद्र सरकार को बुलाना चाहिए था मनीष सिसोदिया को कि मनीष जी आपने बड़ा अच्छा काम किया, आप दूसरी पार्टी से हो सकते हो, लेकिन हमें बताओ, हम पूरे देश के स्कूल ठीक करना चाहते हैं। उन्होंने ऐसा नहीं किया। उन्होंने सीबीआई भेज के अब इसको गिरफ्तार करेंगे, उसको भी गिरफ्तार कर लिया ताकि दिल्ली का काम रुक जाए। दिल्ली का काम रुकने नहीं देंगे। थोड़ी अड़चन आ सकती है, थोड़े दिन के लिए स्पीड कम हो सकती है, लेकिन काम नहीं रुकने देंगे हम लोग। दिल्ली में हम लोगों ने पहले, दिल्ली में जब हमारी सरकार बनी बहुत पावर कट लगते थे, कई बार बिजली जाया करती थी। हमने 24 घंटे बिजली कर दी और बिजली मुफ्त कर दी। दिल्ली के लोगों को मुफ्त बिजली मिलती है। पंजाब के लोगों को भी अब 1 सितंबर से पंजाब के लोगों के 0 बिल आएंगे। 0 बिल पे 0 लिखा होता है, बिल आता है उस पे 0 लिखा होता है। आपको 0 बिल चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए? किस किस को चाहिए? ये कहते हैं केजरीवाल पैसे लुटा रहा है, केजरीवाल फ्री की रेवड़ी दे रहा है। रेवड़ी चाहिए नहीं चाहिए? सबको चाहिए।
National convener of the Aam Aadmi Party, Arvind Kejriwal, who's presently in Gujarat, which is an election-bound state, and clearly taking on the BJP, which is the ruling party in Gujarat, and talking about his school and education and medical health model. So there is a political slugfest between the Aam Aadmi Party on one side and the Bharatiya Janata Party. It started from national capital Delhi, and that after the BJP hit the streets seeking Sisodia's resignation as Deputy Chief Minister. But the allegations have now spread to Telangana also, where the Bharatiya Janata Party is accusing that Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao's daughter K. Kavita is also involved in the liquor case. Here's a detailed report about how this has gone to Delhi, Gujarat, even Telangana.
National capital turns into political battleground. Manish Sisodia's posters blackened. Protesters clash with police trying to barge into Delhi Chief Minister's residence. These were the scenes from the BJP and Congress protests demanding the resignation of Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia over Aam Aadmi Party government's contentious excise policy.
शिक्षा विभाग भी और शराब विभाग भी ये एक ही व्यक्ति के पास है। ये अरविंद केजरीवाल मॉडल है। पैसा दो, ठेका लो, और बेवड़ी है ये सरकार, करती है कट्टर भ्रष्टाचार।
Under fire, a defiant Manish Sisodia made a sensational allegation against the BJP.
मैं राजनीति में इसलिए नहीं आया कि कुछ सपना है मेरा सीएम बनने का, पीएम बनने का, कोई कुर्सियों पर बैठने का। मैं राजनीति में इसलिए हूं कि दिल्ली के और देश के हर बच्चे को बहुत शानदार शिक्षा मिल सके। मेरा सपना ये है। मेरा सपना मुख्यमंत्री बनना नहीं है। तो बीजेपी वालों को मेरा करारा जवाब है, इस पे खुला जवाब है।
ऐसे भ्रष्ट व्यक्ति को, देशद्रोही व्यक्ति को, जो सीए के तरह सर तन से कलम करने वालों का मदद करने वाला सिसोदिया, भाजपा ऐसे लोगों को चिमटे से भी न छुएगी।
Delhi liquor gate has reached Telangana too. This after BJP alleged that the Chief Minister KCR's daughter helped Sisodia with the formulation of the liquor policy. K. Kavita has denied the charges and is instead filing a defamation case against BJP leaders Pravesh Verma and Manjinder Sirsa.
केसीआर की बेटी जो हैं उनका इसमें रोल है, के कविता का इसमें रोल है। और के कविता जो है मीटिंगें करती रही ओबराय में। के कविता जो है शराब के लोगों से, चड्डा परिवार से उन्होंने मीटिंग की, चड्डा परिवार का पैसा लेके उन्होंने फैक्ट्री डीसील करा के दी उनकी। तो ये सारा के कविता का रोल रहा है पैसे लेने देने में बहुत बड़ा।
I have nothing to do with the Delhi liquor investigation that is going on. This is a baseless allegation made on me by Bharatiya Janata Party just to make sure they malign the reputation of our family.
Meanwhile, the ED set to probe foreign remittances by the event management companies linked to the excise policy. The CBI has also shared some documents with the ED in connection to the case. A lookout notice against 8 people named in the FIR has been issued. Bureau Report, India Today.
Remember, not just Manish Sisodia, but some others also were questioned by the Central Bureau of Investigation, and we now bring you the list of some of those names. Some of the ones who were also questioned in Manish Sisodia's case by CBI are Sunny Marwa, Amandeep Dhal, Amit Arora, Sameer Mahindra, Arun Ramachandra Pillai. Businessman Amit Arora, director of Buddy Retail Private Limited, plays a key link. Allegedly, in the scam, there are 5 companies of Amit Arora registered in one address in posh Gurgaon locality. Now, the supervisor says no such company has been operating from this place. The CBI has examined the papers of Amit Arora's companies. They are looking at expenditure incurred by Arora's companies in hotel and flight bookings. CBI is examining whether politicians benefited from any of these largesse that were provided by Arora's companies. They are suspecting that Arora was instrumental in drafting the liquor excise policy. Let's quickly go across to my colleague Abhishek Anand, tracking all the latest on that. Abhishek, so it was Sisodia, but there were others as well who've been mentioned in the FIR, but there are also businessmen who have been questioned. Why specifically is the CBI looking at the businessmen apart from the politicians?
Well, the CBI is probing the kickbacks which allegedly certain businessmen gave to the government. The policy in which certain businessmen or certain companies got the benefit according to the accusations, and rupees 144 crore kickbacks were given by the government. The companies' accounts are being searched, the companies' systems are being searched, whether they were eligible to sell liquor or not, whether they were eligible to apply for the tender or not.
Because Manish Pandey is also now joining me in this live telecast. Manish, because you're also closely tracking the Central Bureau of Investigation, businessmen are being now questioned. Amit Arora primarily in the scanner. Who is this businessman Amit Arora? Why is he being questioned by the CBI? Because what sort of business dealings are they linking it to the excise liquor policy? All right, while we bring you the details from our reporters, I want you to look closely about why these names are important. And while there are 5 names that we can now confirm to you, amid others who were questioned by the CBI, remember there was also about 12 people who've been mentioned, but out of the 5 that we have confirmation of, there is one Amit Arora, who's the director of Buddy Retail Private Limited. His name has suddenly surfaced for the CBI. Now, they are alleging that whether it could be involved in hotel and flight bookings and that the politicians could have possibly allegedly benefited from the business dealings. But the CBI suspects that Amit Arora could have been instrumental in drafting the liquor excise policy, the policy that has now been withdrawn from the national capital, Delhi. But even though withdrawn, it's become an alleged scam of over 144 crore rupees. And in the eye of the storm is Manish Sisodia in that. So what we are looking at is not just the political face-off between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Bharatiya Janata Party and from Delhi to Gujarat to Telangana, but we're also looking at businessmen who are now in the dock of the Central Bureau of Investigation. Remember, it also now appears that from the CBI, the case could even go to the Enforcement Directorate for allegedly money laundering charges. But while the scam is being investigated at this point, we are looking at one specific businessman. 5 companies of Amit Arora registered in one address in a posh Gurgaon locality. Now, we're being told that the supervisor says no such companies operating from this location. Now, the CBI has decided to examine all of the papers of Amit Arora. Manish Pandey, with all the details now. Manish, over to you. Why has this one businessman, Amit Arora, become such an important link with regard to an alleged scam that the CBI is looking at?
Well, Pooja, so far the Central Bureau of Investigation has questioned 5 accused. And remember, these 5 people are named accused in the case where Manish Sisodia is accused number 1. Now, as far as the list goes, there is Sunny Marwa, Amandeep Dhal, Amit Arora, Samir Mahendra and Arun Pillai. These are the 5 people who have been questioned so far by the CBI since Saturday. But now, in this entire questioning, what CBI is claiming at this point of time is that Amit Arora appears to be the key person who was connected not only to the excise policy but in the entire scam. And when they started going deep into the companies where his director, they have come across 5 companies which are, where the registered address of these 5 companies is one location. And so far what we have seen that whenever such things comes into light, most of the times these companies are shell company. Also, if you go by the FIR, the Central Bureau of Investigation has mentioned very clearly that Amit Arora is a close associate of Manish Sisodia, and Amit Arora along with another person received 1 crore rupees in his bank account from a liquor lobby. So they are claiming that this person is known to Manish Sisodia and he has played a very crucial role as far as this entire alleged corruption case is concerned.
So are there businessmen also involved in this alleged scam as the charges against Manish Sisodia and the Aam Aadmi Party netas is now escalating? Manish, keep tracking all the latest. Thank you for getting us this big breaking that there are business dealings also now being explored by the Central Bureau of Investigation. Now remember, this has, apart from the investigations by the CBI, become an unprecedented Aam Aadmi Party versus BJP political showdown. And I want to take you through what precisely are these netas fighting about and replying to each other. So what we have seen in the past 2 days at least, non-stop press conferences. Aam Aadmi Party claims something, the BJP responds, and the BJP says something, Aam Aadmi Party comes with a quick, sharp counter. What exactly has been happening in the past at least 48 hours? Now, the Aam Aadmi Party is claiming that the BJP made an offer to split the Aam Aadmi Party, that it could be an Operation Lotus that was being made against AAP. But the BJP says we cannot break those who have narrow thinking referring to the Aam Aadmi Party top leadership. Now, Arvind Kejriwal went a step ahead, saying there is education model that the world is talking about, and that is being done by Manish Sisodia, and therefore Manish Sisodia should be getting and awarded a Bharat Ratna, which is the highest civilian award for the biggest contribution to society. BJP says Aam Aadmi Party's corruption and dishonesty has been exposed. There is no need for a Bharat Ratna, there is no need for a biggest contribution, it's all corruption, says the BJP. Now, according to the Aam Aadmi Party, they are now, remember, in Gujarat, which is an election-bound state. The Aam Aadmi Party says, we will, exactly on the basis of Delhi's model, we will now give free education and health and free Bijli Pani in Gujarat as well. The Bharatiya Janata Party was quick with a sharp attack, saying Kejriwal should answer first the question if he's honest in the first place. So this, remember, has been non-stop jibes thrown at each other. The Aam Aadmi Party in government in Delhi, the BJP in government in the state of election-bound Gujarat. Now, amid this Delhi liquor gate war, there's a furious face-off that is emerging even on the cyber space. So it's not just about what the netas are having a jhagda about. What you're looking at are some of the memes, comics and cartoons that have erupted, all of this on social media. Now, the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party have been in an intense video and meme war. There are constant jibes that are being thrown at each other.
हेलो क्या मदर मैरी पक्का लॉक कर दूं? सर ये खबर है, ये जो चमक रही है वो हमारी सरकारी नहीं मयूर विहार की प्राइवेट स्कूल की बच्ची आए इसका सही इस्तेमाल
गोलमाल है भाई, सब गोलमाल है
जी। सर जी ये देखिए वो आगे
Coming the video showing Arvind Kejriwal looking alike there distributing freebies to all and sundry to divert attention from the misrule. Now this is the latest in series of the video war between AAP and the BJP. The Aam Aadmi Party also then released a meme which showed Manish Sisodia shielding the Delhi's education model by blocking any sort of arrows or darkness in form of central agencies to protect the children who are getting free education in schools. The video trying to project Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi Manish Sisodia as a fighter pitting against the central government, which is allegedly trying to dismantle all the great work that Aam Aadmi Party is up to. The AAP had earlier released a video, even remember Prime Minister Narendra Modi slamming the CBI misuse while they were in opposition. So it's a full-on cyberspace war also, from memes, cartoons and comics, all of that on social media. News now from J&K. Kashmir-centric political parties continue to protest against the new voting rights for all living and working in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party and the PDP are now logged in a war of words, including the National Conference joining the PDP now, and with protests breaking out specifically in Jammu and Kashmir and in Jammu region. Now, Mehbooba Mufti, as you can see, Farooq Abdullah and other Gupkar leaders as well met in Srinagar today, threatening against any changes in Jammu and Kashmir's electoral rolls, as has been announced by the J&K Election Commission. Now, the PDP even staged protests in Jammu against the inclusion of non-local residents who have been living in the Union territory and now are going to be added to a revised voter list. The Bharatiya Janata Party, meanwhile, has claimed that the Kashmir parties are bent on disturbing the atmosphere. People's Conference Sajjad Lone has even said he's likely to go on hunger strike if the electoral rolls are changed. Farooq Abdullah, meanwhile, the NC chief and former chief minister as well of Jammu and Kashmir, has said they will be appealing to the national parties and inviting them to J&K, and they will likely have another meeting in the month of September. Remember, in the recent announcement of Election Commission of Jammu and Kashmir, after the abrogation of Article 370 and the state becoming a union territory, any Indian citizen living ordinarily in Jammu and Kashmir will be now allowed to cast vote, including employees, businessmen or labourers. Especially marginalized groups denied the right earlier. Now even also armed forces personnel in peace stations will be allowed to vote. All these are also, meanwhile, the guidelines that have been there of the Election Commission of India, which are now applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, has been applicable across India to any citizen of the country. Listen in now to the reactions that have been coming in since today morning.
जो वोटिंग राइट्स इन्होंने खोल दिए हैं सबके लिए, नतीजा ये है कि अभी तक तो नंबर 25 लाख का है, मगर इसमें कोई क्लेरिफिकेशन नहीं है। 50 भी हो सकता है, 60 भी हो सकता है, 1 करोड़ भी हो सकता है। रियासत का जो तशख़्ख़ुस है वो ख़त्म होने वाला है। डोगरे की पहचान ख़त्म हो जाएगी, कश्मीरी की पहचान ख़त्म हो जाएगी। ये जो इनने कानून लाया है ये भी एक मुसीबत का घर बनेगी, क्योंकि हर एक को तो पहले पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को हमारे पास प्रोटेक्शन नहीं है, इनके पास तो हर मजदूर को कैसे ये प्रोटेक्शन देंगे। हमें वो भी खतरा है कि उन पे हमला होगा, और ये इनको बहुत सोच के ये चीजें करनी चाहिए थी।
ये जो प्रोपेगेंडा कांग्रेस, नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस और पीडीपी के नेता जम्मू कश्मीर में कर रहे हैं, ये एक बहुत बड़ी साजिश हो रही है। कांग्रेस, नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस और पीडीपी के लोग ये चाहते हैं कि जम्मू कश्मीर के हालात खराब किए जाएं, जम्मू कश्मीर को लहूलुहान किया जाए। कांग्रेस, नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस और पीडीपी जिनकी राजनीतिक जमीन जम्मू कश्मीर में खिसक चुकी है, नए वोटर्स के इस प्रोपेगेंडे के माध्यम से वो जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को गुमराह करके यहां के हालात खराब करने की साजिश कर रहे हैं, जो हम नहीं होने देंगे।
A shocking development has surfaced in Russia with regard to India. An ISIS plot for a possible revenge against Nupur Sharma was busted in Russia. Russian Federal Security Agency has detained an ISIS suicide bomber. Now, this terrorist was to leave Russia to carry out a high-profile attack in India. To leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party and Indian central authorities on the target. Now, this alleged suicide bomber, who was recruited between April and June this year, has made this big admission and has now told the Russian authorities that he was asked by the terrorist group ISIS to take revenge for the insult to profit. He has said that he had a meeting with a handler in India he was supposed to have that meeting and would be providing him with necessary materials to launch a terror attack. Now, this suicide bomber on your screen with that admission was recruited via Telegram application and even met the ISIS leadership in Turkey. So this, remembers, a shocking development and has been detained by Russia, by the Russian authorities. A bomber who got his training in Turkey. Agenda was to launch a terror attack in India against the comments with regard to the Prophet. Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan now joining me on the latest on that. Geeta, this is absolutely bizarre but also very concerning. The fact that he gets a training in Turkey, gets detained in Russia with regard to launching an attack in India. What are you picking up, and possibly do we have a statement from Indian authorities yet on this?
Well, no official statement from the Indian authorities on the arrest made in Russia, but certainly the intelligence agencies and the ministries of both countries are in touch on a regular basis. So it would not be surprising that the Indian authorities were informed way in advance of what they were pursuing, because the details of the operation, on how they followed the person, how they followed the chatter online and then tracked him down when he arrived or when he was in Moscow, is something that will come out later. But certainly things that would have been shared with the Indian authorities on a real-time basis. Doval met his counterpart in Moscow. He was there for a bilateral meeting, for a bilateral visit. So not surprising that the Indian authorities would know. Also, more importantly, the evidence that is coming out now with the statements that we hear of from the man arrested, is that he was going to come here and was going to be handed over things that are required to carry out the suicide bomb attack, which means that there were people on the ground in India as a support structure for him. Now the evidence and his testimony would be sent to India, to the Indian authorities, for them to carry out investigations so they can bust the entire plan in India also. But it is, like you said, a very scary scenario.
Yes.
At a point in time when we've seen the Prophet Muhammad controversy, and foreign nationals in Indian territory to carry out such attacks is certainly a very big concern for India today.
Geeta Mohan, thank you for the latest on that. An absolutely concerning situation. Remember, trained in Turkey, detained in Russia, was planning to launch an attack in India. Let me now take you to our neighboring nation, Pakistan, which appears to be descending into chaos at the moment. Now, this is what Pakistan looks like. Remember, on top, the political situation and the social situation both appear to be descending into chaos. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan is facing charges under Anti-Terrorism Act. Imran Khan was booked for targeting the state institutions at a public rally. Now, that is the political aspect of it. Meanwhile, socially, Hindu, Sikh and Christian minorities in Pakistan are facing an alarming situation right now, where another Christian girl, Zarvia Parvez, is kidnapped, married off to an already married Muslim man. Also, the Sikh community on the streets in Pakistan is protesting after a Sikh woman teacher, Deena Kaur, was abducted, and the family is now being told her nikah has done and that she will never return home. Protesters are now demanding world attention and also demanding the authorities to take cognizance and return the woman. But worse, an innocent Hindu man, a sweeper, Ashok Kumar, is facing false blasphemy allegations. A mob climbing up their building of the residence to kill him. Thankfully, they could not succeed. So whether it's politically, socially or religious rights, all appear to be right now going downhill for our neighboring nation, Pakistan. Let's begin one by one. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has though been granted protective bail till 25th August by Islamabad High Court. This comes after ousted Prime Minister pursued for a pre-arrest bail in the High Court. Imran Khan's lawyer Faisal Chaudhary and Baba Rawan had filed the plea on behalf of former Prime Minister. Earlier, large crowds hit the streets in Faisalabad after leaders from Imran Khan's PTI asked party workers to protest on the streets against the possible arrest, as it was looking like, of former Prime Minister. Imran Khan has been booked for threatening the additional sessions judge Zeba Chaudhary and 2 COP officials. Pakistan police has registered an FIR against ousted Prime Minister under the Anti-Terrorism Act. Imran Khan was booked for targeting the state institutions at a public rally. However, despite being ousted, former Prime Minister continues to bank on the support of the Pakistani voters. So clearly at this point for Imran Khan, the situation is not looking good. Remember, Anti-Terrorism Act has been slapped against the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. In fact, now on this telecast, I'm joined by a journalist from Pakistan, Jabbar Chaudhary. Jabbar, thank you for speaking to India today. My first question is, what exactly is this case against Imran Khan that has been initiated, and why has this case been registered against him?
Look, the federal government has registered the case against Imran Khan under the Anti-Terrorist Act of Pakistan because the other day when Imran Khan has leaded the rally in Islamabad, and after that he spoke to the public over there, and he threatened the IG, the Inspector General of Police Islamabad, and the Judicial Magistrate of Islamabad. The judicial magistrate who granted the physical remand of his chief of staff Shahbaz Gill, who is in custody of the police because he's facing the charges of sedition in Pakistan, because allegedly the case against him, Mr. Shahbaz Gill's case against him, that he has tried to incite violence in Pakistan and try to divide the Pakistan's armed forces, which is prohibited under the Pakistani constitution.
Jawar, there was this speculation that the former Prime Minister may actually be taken into arrest. It appears he has got temporary relief. What is the current political scenario looking like over there? Because we see these visuals of people taking to the streets, specifically from his party, the PTI. But the situation between Imran Khan and the government, what does it look like right now?
Look, the situation is not very favorable. The situation is very fragile in the country. As you know, that the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is after outset of the Imran Khan, staging the continuous the protest on roads, and the government, the parties which are in the government, they are also facing the situation like protest in every single day, the rallies, the gatherings, the meetings, the jalsas, and so you can say the situation is very tense, and Mr. Imran Khan is demanding early election, but the government has categorically denied and made it clear that the election will not hold this year, but the assembly will complete its term in the next year in October 2023. So the government is not willing or not agree to call the early election, and Imran Khan is continuously demanding. So situation is fragile in Pakistan politics.
Jawahar Chaudhary, thank you so much for speaking to India Today and updating us about what precisely is happening there in the country. We'll know now in the next few days what is the future of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. But if you thought that what's happening to Imran Khan is an isolated incident, that's not correct. I want to now take you through about 4 big names because Pakistan has had a tumultuous political history. Let's begin. Now, in the past as well, the topmost Prime Ministers or President of Pakistan have faced critical scrutiny right after they have been out of power. Let's begin first with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Until recently, remember, he was the Prime Minister. But what exactly had happened? In 1999, the first time, he's a 4 times Prime Minister, he was overthrown first by Army General Pervez Musharraf. In 2007, he's forced into exile to Saudi Arabia. In fact, then he returns, becomes the Prime Minister yet again, but there are allegations of via the court on corruption allegations in 2017. And then he leaves again from the country in 2019 for medical treatment, never returns. General Pervez Musharraf, who has been the president, is also in exile. How did it start? It was actually in 2019. Remember that he was even sentenced to death over treason, and because the case and the verdict that even though was overturned, he is known for imposing emergency rule in Pakistan and overthrowing previous democratic governments. In 2022, General Pervez Musharraf was in self-exile first in UAE for medical treatment and left first in 2016, has never returned ever since. We are now being told he's possibly in the United Arab Emirates. Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, 2 times Prime Minister of the country, but the first woman to lead not only a Muslim country, but the first woman to lead Pakistan as well. Remember, in 1999, corruption charges were filed against her. The court even convicting her, she had to go into self-exile. She returned. But it was in 2007, after she returned to Pakistan, she was assassinated by a teenage suicide member. So it was not just a corruption allegation against Benazir Bhutto, even a suicide bomber had killed her. But her father, this is where it started from. Prime Minister of Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, becoming Prime Minister in 1973. But it was in 1977 that he was overthrown by Army General, also many call him Pakistan's dictator, General Zia-ul Haq. And it was in 1979 that Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was hung to death. So Pakistan has had a political tumultuous history, and now Imran Khan is facing a similar issue. But that's not all what our neighboring nation is currently facing. The oppression of minorities, the religious minorities, continues in Pakistan. A day after the girls of Sikh and Christian communities this time were abducted and forcibly married off, now a mob also attempted to kill a Hindu sweeper over an alleged case of blasphemy. Absolutely horrific situation there in the country. Take a look at this report. Another day, another girl from minority community in Pakistan, abducted, converted and married off to a much older man. In the latest, parents of 13-year-old Christian girl Zarvia Parvez are pleading for their daughter to be rescued. Zarvia was abducted, converted to Islam, married off to a 40-year-old abductor Imran in Rawalpindi. He already has 3 children and a wife who helped him abduct the teenager girl. Shockingly, the court ruled that the minor girl will now have to stay with the kidnapper. Members of the Sikh community are agitating on streets in Pir Baba KPK province. Where a Sikh teacher, Deena Kaur, has been kidnapped and her family told that her nikah has been done. No FIR filed against the abductor and threats instead on the family. According to human rights activists, more than 1,000 girls belonging to Hindu, Sikh and Christian communities are forcibly converted in Pakistan every year. The situation has turned alarming for minorities in Pakistan. After a brawl with a shopkeeper Bilal Abbasi, a fake case of blasphemy has been filed against Ashok Kumar, a Hindu sweeper in Hyderabad, Sindh province. Soon a charged mob gathered at the residence, even climbing up to kill him, but could not succeed. Pakistani paramilitary and police in Hyderabad cracked down on a pro-blasphemy lynch mob. Sadly though, the Hindu man was taken into arrest by the police and thrown behind bars. Bureau Report, India Today. The war in Ukraine, meanwhile, which has unfolded right in front of us. Remember, it's now been ongoing for 6 months. Russia showing no signs of pulling out. Ukraine continues to fight back. Here's more now to give you an update about what precisely is happening in Ukraine.
It's a day of cleanup for Bakhmut residents in the Donetsk region. Shelling started early Sunday morning, according to 72-year-old Valentina, hitting her roof and damaging her apartment. Still, what's even scarier, she says, is silence.
It's scary. We thought we already got used to everything. You know, when they don't shell us, we're even more scared. Because when they shell us, we think, okay, they're shelling us. But when they don't shoot, it's like the calm before the storm. And we wait for something to happen any moment. That's how we're living now.
Bakhmut is west of Luhansk, which Russia said it fully captured last month amid what it calls a special military operation. Ukraine's military said Russian forces carried out offensive operations towards Bakhmut over the weekend. It comes as the 6-month milestone is approaching in a war that has flattened towns and cities, killed thousands, and forced millions to flee. Ukrainian officials also reported Russian strikes on targets in the east and south of the country, including across the river from Europe's biggest nuclear plant, Zaporizhia, which has been held by Russian forces since March, and overnight missile attacks in the Odessa region, home to Black Sea ports critical to a UN-brokered plan to help with agricultural exports. Reuters was not able to independently verify the battlefield reports. Back in Bakhmut, Field Dr. Vadim said he believes Russia has the advantage.
The situation at the moment is stable and difficult at the same time. Our boys hold up well. However, we feel and see that the other side maintains an advantage in artillery systems. That's why we have unfortunate losses. They're unfortunate because we could avoid them if we could give an adequate response.
Wednesday also marks the anniversary of Ukraine's independence from Soviet rule. President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for vigilance ahead of the day, saying Moscow could try something particularly ugly.
Special story coming in from Telangana. The Telangana government held a mega concluding ceremony of the fortnight-long celebration of 75 years of independence. These latest visuals on your screen was a major event held at Hyderabad's Lal Bahadur Stadium, which has been now lit up with colourful lights. Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao attended the event, witnessing performances by renowned singer Shankar Mahadevan and also prominent Kuchipudi dancer Deepika Reddy and the team. There was also a laser show that has been planned in this. These are the visuals coming in, leaving you with this. Thank you for watching 6 PM Prime.